In case it's unclear, you see the way the Doge folks roll up on these agencies, and they don't give prior notice. They roll up in there, they literally barge in there. They're disrespectful, and basically they inflict trauma on these federal employees and these federal bosses. Okay, they don't treat them with any sort of respect. And that is par for the course for where a lot of these right wingers, and honestly, a lot of the American public feels about federal workers. They look at federal workers as contempt. They sit there, they don't do anything, and that's the most secure job anybody could have, And so a lot of Americans, frankly, are like, that's good. Y'all feel y'all could just have one job and just retire. That's good. That's good. Y'all getting your comfort rug dragged out from under you. That's good. Good for them. A lot of Americans feel that way. I'm telling you that. A federal job is one of the most secure jobs you can get out there. Okay? It's stable, has a lot of protections, it has pensions, you have 401ks, and you can't just get fired for no cause. It's not at will. The reason why there's not more of an uproar about what's going on, because as I said, a lot of people look at the federal government with a lot of contempt. They don't trust the federal government. And they look at the workers in the federal government, these people who are in federal government, like if they don't do anything, they're incompetent, they're sucking up all this money and all of this kind of stuff. And they don't do anything. They don't do anything worth anything. And the way these Doge people roll up in there, it's like fun for them. Look at how they're upset. It's like owning the libs. This is exuberant. This is exuberance that they go up in there with. The kind of cruelty they're going in there with is this kind of exuberance. The cruelty is the point. The terrorism is the point. The violence of their disrespect, the violence of their upturning of norms is the point. They go up in there and they lock people out of the ring and deny them access to the system. You all ain't doing nothing anyway. Why do I have to add? Why do I have to give you prior permission? Y'all ain't doing shit anyway. And they've always wanted to destroy the thing. It's an ideological thing with them too. They've always hated government like this. They've always hated the government. They've always hated the mechanism, the architecture of the government. They've always hated it. So they treat it with the kind of contempt and disdain that they've always felt about it. But what's especially dangerous is that these Heritage Foundation sons of bitches are allowing Trump to cozy up to America's greatest adversaries. They're allowing Trump to basically break decades of alliances that have kept America safe. They're allowing Trump to exact his petty revenge and retribution against people who talk shit about him, who he fouls disrespected, because that serves as a distraction for them while they dismantle and destroy the federal government architecture, the administrative state that they've always wanted to do. He's a useful distraction for them as they go in there and do this. And Doge is the tip of the spear where that's concerned. That guy joking about cutting off Social Security, that is infuriating. That is pure fuckery. But what Trump is doing on the world stage, basically weakening NATO, allowing the slaughter of Palestinians, right? And destroying, basically wanting to give up Ukraine on a silver platter to Russia, right? Picking fights with Mexico, picking fights with Canada, all this bullshit about renaming the Gulf of Mexico, talking about he wants to take Greenland. That is a distraction. Yes, it's problematic. It's destabilize the world, but it's a fucking distraction to what these people really want to do here. It's still a fucking distraction. These people hate the administrative state. These people are hard right ideologues who hate the administrative state. They've always disdained the federal workforce, right? And unfortunately, a lot of the American public is right there with them. I know people that I work with who are good and decent people who feel that way about government workers. And there's nothing I can really do to let them feel different, to talk them down. They want to, let's just see what they do. And they refuse because they have disdain. They're overlooking the obvious untrustworthiness, the obvious phoniness, the obvious fakeness, the obvious theft that's going on, because they want the idea of scuttling the federal government, of, taking it to these and making these federal workers, disrupting the lives of these federal workers. They want that thing to happen so bad. They've always felt that way. So they're willing to back up anyone who do they think is doing it. And they're willing to believe anything that entity that's doing it is saying, even though they shouldn't, even though it's obvious that they shouldn't. But you see, this is the thing. This is a long-term right-wing coup against this place. They have let people feel that the federal government is no good, the federal government does no good, and that people that work in the federal government are just sitting on their asses, don't do anything there. They're incompetent. They wouldn't survive a day in the private sector. Steve Bannon had a video where he was bragging about, oh, you guys think you're safe? Well, we're gonna kick your asses out. They're gonna kick your ass. We're gonna gut Washington, D.C. You ain't doing shit there anymore. You think you're safe? Fuck you. We're taking you out of there. They are bragging. They're loving this. And a lot of Americans feel the same way. And that's because the right wing has been allowed for decades to do that shit. And I'm sorry, Democrats, you're as much to blame too. You provided the vacuum for them to go into. You pushed back. You never pushed back at all. Considering this shit a culture war, stuff that you didn't want to get into. Did you think you were above? You let Ronald Reagan inseminate that within the American zeitgeist with no counter. You let Republicans say that shit over and over again with no counter. And now, this is what we got. Just to drill down, these people, these Peter Thiels of the world, the Musks and these right-wingers, they resent that the common rabble, that a segment of the common rabble, lowly, regular folks, have such stability and have such safety within a work environment. They do not like unions for that, and they resent the hell out of the federal workforce for that. They resent it. They don't think that these common folks deserve that kind of stuff. And the regular public, we're so, and the regular public, we resent that too. If I don't have it, why should they have it? Instead of saying, if they have it, maybe I should have it too. And that is the crux of what is going on. They resent the stability that regular folks have in the federal government.
I've said on here before and other places that state government jobs, city government jobs, and federal government jobs are the largest employers of black people actually college, institutional jobs, are the largest employers of black peoples across this country. So, in a sense, the Heritage Foundation, which you all need to remember, that's a white supremacist organization, okay? They're related to the Federalist Society, which, again, is white supremacist. They never liked black people getting anything. They don't like to see black people comfortable. They like to see black people struggling. They like to see black people fighting for every little bit they get. So, when we say in the community, yo, go on and get you a good government job, good stable government job. A lot of black people get the government job and they relax and they rest. They think, okay, good, I'm stable, I got some financial stability. These people have been waiting for their chance to rip that up. Now, they're targeting us really with all these workers they're firing. But, you know, they're targeting us because they have made it known in the public that the face of government workers are black people. But the majority of government workers, by a long shot, are white people, in particularly white women. So they did all this to disrupt us, mainly. They're always targeting us. White supremacy always targets black people. But they have loathing for the lower classes too. They have loathing for the middle class, lower middle class, and even upper middle class. They loathe them too. So they decided they're going to call everybody, you know, just on GP. But the target is black people. Those same people were the ones who started insinuating into the public zeitgeist, especially when black people got the right to use certain things like Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid, especially after the 1960 Civil Rights Acts and affirmative action came about. They are the ones that started plotting and planning from since then to dismantle those things because they felt, okay, this has got to stop. The Negroes are getting access to this stuff now. No, these things have to go. That's why now when black people got access to public education, a lot of these public education colleges all of a sudden had their funding cut. And some colleges all of a sudden went private. Again, white supremacy always targets us to lock us out of it. They don't like to see us getting anything. Drained pool politics, as my friend Fortress loves to say. So it's, don't get it twisted, my people. All of this disruption still is targeting us. Everything's still fucking racist. The unions now are under renewed assault because unions were forced to integrate. They didn't like that. They didn't like to see black people being able to get a certain standard of living, just like white people have had for generations. That's always been a problem. I'm telling you, man. This is why I talk about the way white people express their whiteness. The particular way that most white people express their whiteness is a very specifically targeted avarice, specifically targeted kind of what we call bad-mindedness. You know, it's like it gets in the white identity's craw to see black people prospering because in some kind of way that rises above or colors outside of the so-called line of proximity to whiteness that white people have always demanded that black people stay under. And so these Federalist Society, Heritage Foundation folks, and all of these people, they know how to trigger that sort of collective, subconscious, racist backlash in white people. Because white people only seem to only know how, they only seem to understand, that kind of whiteness, the kind of whiteness that's eternally anti-black. Anti-black at all costs. Meaning if they have to die to make sure that black people get kept back, if they have to destroy everything they depend on to make sure black people get kept back, that expression of whiteness seems to be the only type of whiteness that most white people know how to live in. This is the reason we can't get anything nice. This is the reason we keep having large swaths of the society vote against their own best interests, because they can't guarantee that black people will get locked out anymore. It's as simple as that. You can't guarantee that we will get locked out anymore. Unfortunately, for a lot of white people, the laws of this country and the interpretation of the laws over the centuries have made it so that you cannot legally and constitutionally lock black people out of any and all benefits that come from this society anymore. Therefore, many of you have resolved over and over again over history to burn it all down, just for the perception that black people are being reinterred under you, no matter the cost to yourselves. Just as long as they get hurt, just as long as the black people get hurt. I mean, they throw in the LGBTQ and the aspirant whites, to keep them in check too, and let them know you ain't never gonna be white. But believe me, the main target has always been black people. And this is why, when we were talking to y'all behinds last year prior to the election, we were beseeching you guys to fucking listen. But no one did. Even the other non-white groups didn't listen to us. Everything's still racist, man. Everything's still racist.